How's it going, everybody? Bryan Alvarez here, After Dark Radio. We are here every Wednesday, 2 Pacific, 5 Eastern. Sports Byline Broadcasting Network. Tune in radio. Search Sports Byline. YouTube at f4wonline.com/YouTube and Twitch at twitch.tv/f4w video. And here we are. It is a week before Christmas, and what a Christmas gift we've got for you today. Very special show. Christian Barrera is going to be joining us here today. He is a member of the Rosebud Sioux tribe, and he has done all sorts of things in his life. United States Navy, a Navy corpsman, 2nd Marine Division, and also worked on the Northern Plains Drug Task Force with the FBI. He has since gotten involved in the world of Bigfoot, and he is the founder of Bigfoot South Dakota, and he uses what he has learned, basically tracking criminals in his Bigfoot investigation. So Christian Barrera is going to be joining us here today. Bigfoot South Dakota, there is a Facebook page if you'd like to head up there and check it out as well. He's been on Coast to Coast AM, so we're going to have a lot to talk to him about today. Last weekend, probably won't have time to talk a lot about it today, but the next time I have a solo show, I'll talk about it. I did watch David Paulides' new documentary on Bigfoot, which is available on Amazon.com, Apple TV, and interesting documentary. It goes in a lot of different directions, very much into the paranormal side of Bigfoot, which, of course, we've talked about a lot. There's two sides to this Bigfoot story. There is the camp that believes there's a paranormal aspect to this, and there's the camp that believes, well, it's just a big ape. So David Paulides' new documentary looks at the paranormal side of it, and we can talk about that more on a different day, and perhaps today with Christian Barrera. So we'll be back with our special guest when we come back from the break. After Dark Radio, Sports Byline Broadcasting Network. Alvarez here, After Dark Radio Sports Byline Broadcasting Network every Wednesday. Very happy today to be joined by Christian Barrera. We got a lot to talk about when it comes to Bigfoot. And Christian, how you doing today?
Pretty good.
Now you've
a little bit windy out here.
It's windy out there?
Yeah, windy out here in South Dakota.
Man, we got wind here and flooding. I'm out here in Washington.
I've been following that. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, luckily nothing in this exact area where I'm at, but I've got friends that, everywhere around where they live. It's just apartments flooding, and it's crazy. But we are here to talk about Bigfoot here today, and you've got a rather interesting story as you kind of take on Bigfoot investigations from a different angle. Is that right?
Yes, I do. As I got into it, and I was a patrol officer and would get all these calls. And then when I became a special agent and had an encounter, after a couple things that had happened, I started this group with other cops, and we started doing as a crime scene. When we get a call or anything that happens, we try to get there as soon as we can, try to gather evidence like a crime scene rather than having people go out and look for them and stuff like that. We kind of do both. We treat it like a crime scene, basically try to gather facts. Ever since my encounter, I guess from hunting humans to, try to find out what this thing is.
Well, we'll talk about your encounter here in a second, but I want to ask, because you mentioned crime scenes and looking at it from that angle. So some people, there's the Patterson-Gimlin film, and if you go to your Facebook page, which you can check out, Bigfoot South Dakota on Facebook. You got a lot of photos up there. Bigfoot filmed in Yellowstone. There's audio files, and there's all sorts of stuff. But some people say the actual best evidence is not any of that. It's actually the footprints. The footprints are the best evidence we have of Bigfoot because many crime scenes, as you're well aware, it can come down to a print. Someone finds a print, or maybe less so nowadays. I'm sure it's a lot of DNA, but prints are, evidence that can be accepted. So would you say that the prints are the best evidence that we have?
Back then. Now it's DNA. They're having that DNA genome program where they're actually gathering, I think it's Olympic Project and other projects are actually getting a database of these DNA they're collecting from different sites, and it really hasn't come together in a full report yet, I don't think. But DNA right now is probably the best. But unfortunately, like Patterson-Gimlin is probably the best, right?
Yeah. That's the one thing to me that. There's a few things, but that's a big one.
It's never been debunked, and the thing with right now, and I said this on another radio show, that AI has ruined Bigfoot.
Yes.
If you turn around everywhere, there's a Bigfoot talking now, and doing different things. And,
now, when it comes to DNA, let me take you back to DNA here for a second. So, I think the issue with DNA to me is, if it's an undiscovered species and there are no matches, isn't really the best that we can get that it's an undiscovered or it's an unknown? Wouldn't we need to actually have verifiable Bigfoot DNA to then match it to?
Exactly. I was just going to get to that point too. That, without a body, confirming that you got this DNA from that person, confirming to the ones that we have, there's no official best evidence, but we're going into that direction of, trying to discover it, but it's just a matter of time. We could see what happens from in the future if we can ever get too close to it.
Now, what was your experience, and was it something that occurred after you began investigating Bigfoot, or was it the impetus for you getting into this?
Well, I was a patrol officer on the Rosebud Reservation here in South Dakota. And, as a patrolman, I got called to, people claiming to seeing Bigfoot. And after talking to Like there was like 4 incidents, and one of them really stuck out with me was I was called out, and it's very desolate out here. And this family that lived in the trailer, they called and said that there was monkeys on top of their roof running back and forth. And when I get out there, I come to the front door, and first thing, I'm always observing everything where I go. There were shotgun shells laying on the porch, on the deck part. And I couldn't figure out. I was like, oh, this guy must likely was shooting. But when he answered the door, the woman was crying, thinking I was there. The guy was coming out of the bedroom with a shotgun, and I was like, in my head, when people say monkeys on a roof, you're thinking meth, they're on methamphetamine and they're freaking out, tweaking. But after they learned their story, what they have told me is that it was bothering him so much that, these things were running on the roof. He went outside and shot a round off to scare him off. And when he did that, he had a junk car that was there, and this big, tall, he said about 8-foot, hairy thing stood up right beside the car, and it scared the bejesus out of him. So he just started shooting rounds all over the place. And I know they were all bird shots, so it was never infected him. But that's the reason they call the police, is when they seen that. So after, this was on a patrolman, because I never really got into it. I never even thought about it. But when I became a special agent, I was called to a vehicle crash fatality, and there was me and the highway safety guy that was doing the actual reconstruction. And it's a place called Crazy Horse Canyon, and it's just covered canyons with, like ponderosa pine and just very thick brush. And when we were there, just comparing notes after the investigation, just waiting for the ambulance and the tow truck, the guys to get there, this thing started screaming at us. It's probably about 75 to 100 yards away, up above us, but we couldn't really see it because there was so much foliage and trees. But it would move around from one place to another. And I've been to zoos and circuses where you heard lions, bears, tigers, mountain lions. That's what we have. And they did nothing like it. I mean, you could feel it, it could run into your whole body. And the highway safety guy, he's 6'8" himself, very large human being. And I'm only 6 foot, but he was scared. I mean, we literally I grabbed my AR-15, and I was like trying to zoom in on it with our spotlights, but the spotlight can only go so far. That's hooked to the car. But our flashlights were dying out, and it just was moving back and forth, and it quit. And next thing you know, it was behind us across the river. And I'm like, yikes. I don't know what that was. And it drew a lot of curiosity. So that incident went and passed. 3 months later, another cop and I was collecting my trail cameras, because I had a bull elk tag. I'm a big time hunter. And when we went up to, in this area, which I found out later, it's only 3 miles away, I went to go retrieve the card when the same, whatever it was, screamed at us, broad daylight. And it scared, my partner really. I mean, it scared him. It startled me because I'm like, hey, I heard that before, and we were fully armed. But we quit hunting that day. We didn't want to do anything. So about a month goes by, and I belonged to the Northern Plains Drug Task Force at that time with the FBI. And we were sitting here listening to Art Bell on Coast to Coast AM.
Excellent.
When a segment on Bigfoot, it was the whole night, it was Bigfoot. And every commercial break, they would have Bigfoot screaming or a recording of it. And when that played, it just like, I heard it and I was like so amazed. It's like, that's exactly what I heard. So I called up my partner and I told him, I said, hey, is this what you heard? He said, yeah. The other guy said, yep. Exactly. I said, well, they're saying it's Bigfoot. So, it drew my curiosity. And as my career went on, I got on one of my other trail cameras, some weird stuff, but on a ranger, a park ranger, as really good friends with mine. And during this time, he had an encounter that something ran in front of him, and it's real thick foliage where he was at, and he found a footprint.
Well,
and
hold that thought.
picture's-
We're going to head to a break. We're going to catch up with finding that footprint when we come back from the break. After Dark Radio, Sports Byline Broadcasting Network. Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, After Dark Radio. Christian Barrera is joining us here today. We just left with a cliffhanger, the finding of a footprint. And Christian, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, this ranger, he was patrolling this area called the Chases Woman Dam. Most of our dams and stuff are named after significant Sioux people. And he was in this area called Chases the Woman Dam, and this thing had running. He thought it was an elk, so he wanted to see what, if there was, because elk season was coming up. And when he got up to where it crossed, he happened to look down and saw a very, very big footprint, and it kind of gave him, the EBGBs. He's really never told anybody at that time, and this was like in the 2009 era. And at the same time, which I didn't know, he didn't show me the footprint for a bit, but during that same time, I had my trail camera just up the road, not even 1/8 of a mile, and it triggered at nighttime. And I wonder why I kept this, but there was 3 pictures, and it was just total darkness. It was at 5 a.m. And when I took a closer look at him, because I always download it and I always look at it, I said, well, something had to trigger it. And when I really looked at it, you could see a pair of red eyes on the right-hand corner, and those pictures are on the Facebook page. And you could see there's 3 pictures on there, and it sees where you see 2 eyes, and then one like it blinked, and back to 2 eyes. And at the same time, an hour later, a bull elk triggers it, and you could see with those eyes where there's nothing. There's no trees there. It's just plain flats, and you could see the terrain, what I'm talking about. And so we kind of measured it, and it turned out to be either between 12 to 14 foot tall. The only things was red eyes. If it was a bat, it would have been flying. There was no way the camera would have caught it, because it takes a picture every 3 seconds. And, a fox has them. Some elk do have red eyes, but as you could tell in the picture, that elk was nowhere that tall. So whatever it was that triggered it, I don't know if they were chasing something and it triggered the trail camera, but you could literally see the red eyes. And I tried to blow it up, threw filters on it, and it just looks like a head, basically.
12 to 14 feet is big.
Very big.
Very big.
And that was what gives me the EBGBs is that it was behind my old house, and I'm like thinking, and I didn't have the group started yet, and I was just interested in start researching it. And so I was just getting things together, started, the Patterson Gimlin film. I started researching stuff on, internet just started coming around then. Facebook wasn't really a big deal, so it was like getting things together. And then the ranger, he's a really good friend of mine. We've known each other for years since I was a kid. And we sat down and we talked about it. He showed me that footprint. And that's back in the days where we still had film, but he took it with a digital camera, so he printed it off and he showed me. It was a folded up piece of paper, but he showed me. I was like, oh, wow, where'd you find this? And he told me, and I said, that's only an 1/8 of a mile where my trail camera was. And you could see that print on there. I think it measured up to like 18 inches, 19 inches.
Wow.
Footprint.
Now, go ahead.
He never really measured it, but he wears a size 10, and that thing just dwarfs his foot. So, just according to the picture.
The first story that you told about the family that's there with their monkeys on the roof, that brings to mind the obvious question. So, if you've been doing Bigfoot research a long time, there are many camps as to what Bigfoot is. Your logo on Bigfoot South Dakota Facebook page, it is a Bigfoot in a headdress. And the 3 things that you hear are it's some undiscovered ape. That's one. The other, a lot of the Native American tribes considered it another tribe, so I guess that would be more human than ape. And then there's the third camp, which is there's a paranormal aspect to this. And of course, if you're in the paranormal camp, that's one thing. If you're not in the paranormal camp, you don't want to hear from the paranormal camp. So where where do you fall in this?
The reason for the headdress is because in our Sioux culture, Lakota Sioux, we call him Chiatonka. It's pronounced Chiatonka, which means older brother and elder brother, as we consider them
another tribe,
forest brothers. Yeah, and they're, as our medicine men said, we leave them alone, they leave us alone. Some medicine men say they're spirits, but the physical evidence says it's otherwise, that people are seeing them, they're leaving hair, they're leaving scat, and they're, touching things and leaving fingerprints and doing this and that. So I don't believe it's a spirit. I believe it's just another person or a tribe which can remain untouched for probably forever. I haven't got into that cloaking or they move in between the worlds. Some medicine men do say that they live in both worlds, but I haven't had that experience yet. So, I mean, it's one of them things you have to see it to believe it.
It is funny you mentioned that, because the flesh and blood Bigfoot, the people in that camp, they don't want to hear about the paranormal aspect. But
yes.
A lot of the Native American tribes, even though you refer to them as a brother, I mean, as you noted, like many tribes and such do see a paranormal aspect to Bigfoot, and.
Yes.
I mean, they do also, I guess, to a lot of other animals. They attribute some paranormal powers to other animals as well, if I recall. But it is interesting that, the Native Americans, they also often see a paranormal side to Bigfoot.
Yes. They believe that he walks between two worlds, in which, that could explain a lot of things, but I'm not, a true believer in that. People said, well, you never see them. If they want you to see them, they'll let you listen at it. I don't believe that. I have to see it for myself. But people also say, if it's out there, how come you can't find it? And I just tell them this one simple thing: go out to the forest and sit for an hour. Don't move, don't talk, don't do anything. You'll realize within 15 minutes, you'll see everything. You'll hear, birds flying by you, everything that's around you. If you sit still, people won't even recognize you're even there, And if you lived, or if you even deer hunted, you could see how deer hide so fast. I've seen deer crawl, we're watching them, and, that survival mode, of course, of not being seen, that start of camouflage basically on anything.
It is funny because I live here in Washington, and I don't live in a very remote area. There's housing developments everywhere, but there are deer that live around here, and you almost never see them. But
only at night.
but they're around. But you almost never see them, and there's really not that much in terms of forest around here, particularly where I live. I sometimes think that people who ask the question, well, why haven't we found them yet? I kind of feel like these people have never actually been out in the real woods, not the woods maybe by your house. I'm talking like the deep woods of the Northwest or different areas around this country. I mean, there's a lot of woods. And you go not very far in, and you're just in the middle of nowhere. And meanwhile, those woods keep going for miles and miles and hundreds of miles. There's a lot out there.
Yes. In Washington and Oregon, my experiences up there is like you walk in 15 feet, you better know where you're going. Otherwise, they're going to be looking for you, because you could walk 5 feet and look back and it won't look the same. Really doesn't, with all the moss and the big trees. Oh, that's so beautiful up there, though.
So the Sioux mentioned Bigfoot is a brother, a forest brother, and
elder brother.
And having done all of the investigations that you have done over the past more than a decade, almost 20 years now, you still agree it's a forest brother?
Yes. Definitely. With all the, people report things, they hear, to this week, there was in this area that I'm in, Rosebud Reservation, that I'm investigating. It's just like maybe a 7-mile radius that there's so many reports have been going through there that earlier, last Friday, a guy had recorded the thing screaming, right in the early evening, the night before it snowed.
Well, hold that thought. We're going to talk more about this after the break, and I'm going to try and play one here on the air as well from the Bigfoot South Dakota Facebook page. So stand by. Back in a moment. After Dark Radio, Sports Byline Broadcasting Network. Is here After Dark Radio every Wednesday, 2 Pacific, 5 Eastern, Sports Byline Broadcasting Network. Christian Barrera is joining us here today. And we got some audio we're going to play here. And Christian, tell us again, what is this that we're about to hear?
Okay, last week, a guy was outside of his house smoking, and it was right at dusk. And when this thing started screaming around near him, so he got out of his phone and pressed record, and that's what I encourage anybody does when they hear stuff. Just pull out your phone and start recording.
All right, let's see if this plays. Here we go. And you've been out in the woods a lot and never heard anything like that?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And a lot of times when we're out, we used to be like the show Finding Bigfoot, go out, and we never banged anything on the trees or hollered or anything, but I thought it was just a waste of time. But after listening to hundreds and hundreds of stories, when people start out with their story, they're like, hey, we were camping, we were sitting by a campfire. So we started doing that, and within a week we had results. And there's other recordings. I do have a YouTube channel too, and which has some recordings on there. But a lot of times when we hear it, well, I'm not fast enough to click the record button. I mean, we've heard it probably over 50 times, and it's different variations of them. Some sound like the Ohio howls, if you look that up on YouTube. Some sound like that. Some are just a straight siren, I guess you can see like a tornado siren, but it's not wavy. It's just straight. Some sound like, just a scream that is just hollering at something. And some are just a big old howl that just lasts forever, And I've got a couple on there that we managed to capture. A lot of them we didn't.
I always, I'm pretty old. I'm 50 now. And when I was a kid reading about Bigfoot, no one really talked about going in the woods and howling or, whacking sticks on a tree or whatever. So, as I get older and I start reading about this, kind of like, where did all this come from? Hitting trees with a stick or whatever. Kind of seems a little bit silly. And then, It was like earlier this year, a friend of mine who's into Bigfoot, they sent me this article. And it was like, they've now discovered that apes actually whack sticks on things to communicate. Like, it just came out this year. And I was like, wow, how about that? And all of a sudden, it's kind of like, maybe.
Yeah, but we don't know what they're communicating about, so that's why I don't do it.
Exactly.
Back and,
You don't want to communicate that you're coming after them, and then they come after you.
It might be a mating call or something. I don't know. You don't want to be in that predicament.
Now, what do you make of the Sierra Sounds? Those are probably the most famous Bigfoot vocalizations of all time.
Yes, with Ron Moorhead. They're very interesting, and I had a few people that heard the gibberish, the samurai talk, I guess. But that is so. I mean, I listen to him from time to time. Never met the man, but that's really different. Really different.
This past week, there was a documentary on Bigfoot that came out that David Paulides put together.
Yes.
Did you watch it?
Not yet.
Not yet? It's he's very much in the paranormal camp. He's very much in the paranormal camp, which I really am not. But there were two things that I found really fascinating. And one was that he and a buddy, I guess they were out doing whatever, and they recorded chatter that actually sounded a lot like the Sierra Sounds.
Oh, yes, I did watch a segment about that.
Yeah.
That exact, I believe the guy's name, Scott Nelson, told him that it was the exact same thing.
Yes.
Same language pattern.
It was bizarre because, the Sierra Sounds are very famous, but it's like they're the only ones. You would think if this were a regular thing, but it's usually we get the howls. So when I actually heard a recording of a different set of Sierra Sounds, it was that one was pretty interesting. And then the other thing that was in it that I found interesting that I want to ask you about is there was a video of there was a trackway in these people's yard, okay? It was like deep snow. They woke up in the morning, and there's a trackway leading to, like, right down their front yard, and there's like a trampoline there or whatever. And it was amazing because, like, these tracks are deep in the snow. It's first thing in the morning. They're, like, really far apart. There's no other tracks around. And it was kind of one of those deals where, you know, even if you're a little bit skeptical, you can kind of think, well, maybe someone put on shoes or whatever. But when you actually see these tracks, it's like they're so big and they're so far apart. It's almost like you're trying to figure out a magic trick. Like, how could somebody actually fake this? Like, I can't even figure out how it could be done. And, like, that trackway was the thing in the video, more the documentary more than anything else. It was just like, that's way more amazing than they're giving this credit for. It's like, how could you possibly fake something like that?
Yeah, it's impossible. Very impossible.
And
we had a thing about a year ago in the same area, Rosebud, South Dakota, where it's north of there, and there was snow on the ground, but it wasn't that much snow. But this lady peeked out her kitchen window, and you could see the tracks coming from the draw of the canyons and up to her window, and goes around her house and exits out through goes from the snow area to where there's no snow, and then it walked off. Pretty interesting.
Now, the other thing that he talked about, which you probably know about, you know, like I said, I'm not really into the whole paranormal aspect, but many times there will be these long trackways. Sometimes, you know, people will follow them for like a mile, which is an awful long way to go if you're trying to like fake Bigfoot prints in the snow that's going to melt in 8 hours anyway. But like these tracks will go, and then they'll just stop. They just stop. And it's like, well, where did it go? And, you know, the paranormal people will say, well, you know, a UFO picked it up, or it vanished, or it went into another world, or whatever. If you're not a paranormal type, then it does kind of beg the question, well, where did they go? Because this seems to happen somewhat regularly, where you'll follow a trackway for a long time, and then it'll just end.
Yes. Yeah, I did see a couple reports like that. I think one was out in California. This guy recorded it like about 10 years ago, maybe. But where his ended up, you know, there was a tree there, so I don't know if it just jumped in the tree. I don't know. But I haven't seen the Pilates one, but I believe they talked about that, where those tracks just ended in the snow.
Yeah, it was just...
And I don't know if there was something there it jumped onto, or, you know, it's something I gotta see, but that could be, you know, it could have just disappeared, you know.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird things about Bigfoot.
Yeah, unless it had a reverse button and just used its own tracks to get out.
Hey, you know, there are people that believe that, you know, Bigfoot will cover its own tracks. It will try what it can do to not leave tracks.
Yeah, there is also footage from Colorado way back in the 80s, I believe, where it's jumping on rocks.
Oh, to avoid, yeah.
Yeah, it was walking in the snow, and it jumped on rocks to, you know, get away from its own tracks, apparently.
What is the best evidence besides your own personal sighting? If you've never had an experience before, what would you say is the best evidence for Bigfoot? Is it a photo? Is it a recording? Is it the Patterson film? What would you say?
I'd say the Patterson film for sure. The Paul Freeman footage for sure. The Browns thermal. That's really interesting.
Is that where the Bigfoot walks across the path?
Yeah, it runs, so like jumps from one tree to another.
Yeah. And, I remember that one from Finding Bigfoot, because I saw when I first saw the video, I was like, I'm very unimpressed. It's like, it's just a thermal of one body moving, you know, behind another tree. But then they actually went to where it was filmed, and they had Bobo try to recreate it, and like he was tiny compared to...
Yeah, he was way smaller.
Yeah. That one blew my mind.
And there's a couple other ones, and I just can't think of their names right now. But I know they tried to do a recreation of that Justin Smeha up in the Sierras, and they were actually filming the camp when something was in between the campfire, the guys at the campfire, and the trees, and they put a guy down there in a thermal. It was a thermal footage, and the thing was a lot bigger, way bigger than the 6-foot guy. Or no, I think he was 5'9". But something was in between the campers and the guys with a thermal on top of the hill. So that one was pretty interesting. But the other ones I can't think of right now. But I know there's a couple more that I believe that is really good footage. As far as the cloaking one, I do have that on my YouTube channel, and it was a guy just ranting on Facebook. I don't know if you've seen this footage. A guy was ranting, and he was smoking outside of his apartment, and when he started talking about, I think there's a ghost in there. And I do a little segment on my YouTube channel where, to me, it just looks like a gigantic, cloaked, either Bigfoot or a dog man running, and it's transparent.
Really?
And I slow it down, and you can literally see it. And so, and he's out there smoking, and he sees it, and he's like, what the heck was that? And went back inside, and he does a rant. But I when I was on Facebook one night, and he was just on there ranting and talking about, I was going to change it when he said something. He seen something behind his, and that gets my interest when somebody says, I've seen something behind my house, So I started watching it, and I started recording it live, and, I walked away from it, and next thing you know, he's scared. He said, I just seen it. So I'm like, so I waited till he was done, and then I rewatched it, and you could see that. So I made a little segment about it, talking about it, and I slow it down, zoom it in, and it's pretty interesting. It's the only thing that has definitive on the cloaking part. Nice. And
The YouTube page, Bigfoot South Dakota 6881, is where you can find it. Or just Google, I'm sure, Bigfoot South Dakota on YouTube, and it'll come right up there. And, I mean, now that it's 2025, almost 2026, I mean, do we pretty much just have to rely on, like, veteran Bigfoot researchers for photos and footage at this point because of AI? I mean, how do we determine anything anymore when people send in their videos or photos?
Yeah, that's one good thought, because I almost started a new page just for debunking people, just something to do as an investigator. But the real champ of somebody who's actually, it's going to be something that's, you could pretty much tell if it's AI or not.
Yeah.
But it's going to be just a common person. I know it's just going to have the greatest footage ever, or something's going to happen where somebody's going to hit one, and it's going to be stuck with them, and it's going to be caught on dash cam or something. That's the only reason. Or if the government comes out and says, yeah, we've been having this, according to the Miller documents, we had this for a long time, and we just got to disclose it like they're doing the aliens now.
Well, we're going to head to a break. When we come back, we're going to tell you guys about the YouTube page and the Facebook page and how you can learn more about Bigfoot South Dakota. So stick around, everybody. Back in a moment with more After Dark Radio, Sports Byline Broadcasting Network. Alvarez here, After Dark Radio, every Wednesday, 2 Pacific, 5 Eastern, Sports Byline Broadcasting Network. Very happy today to be joined by Christian Barrera, and we're already out of time, unfortunately. I do want to talk sometime about what you think the government knows about Bigfoot, but that's going to have to be for another day. But tell us about the Facebook and the YouTube so people can go up and check out some footage and some sounds.
Like I said, my name is Christian Barrera. I'm the founder of Bigfoot South Dakota. There's 23 of us guys around the state that volunteer our time. You can find it on Facebook, Bigfoot South Dakota. You can tell by the headdress of Sasquatch and the headdress, and also the YouTube, Bigfoot South Dakota. And you can see a picture of me with my boss's dog on top of a rock hill.
That's right. So how often do you guys go out?
We have guys around the state, and they, if I get reports, we go out as much as we can, but like in the wintertime, we hardly go out because of obviously the snow, but I live in the Black Hills area, so it's snow and icy all the time, so it's really risky if you don't want to fall off a cliff. But we do get calls, and we have guys in certain areas where they respond. Right now I'm getting calls about these strange lights in the sky, so not really what I do, but I've seen enough footage already. Well, I'm interested in it, so... But we're trying to work on that rosebud thing right now where the screaming is at. And there's 7 guys in that region there, so just a matter of time.
Well, I want to thank you so much for doing the show today. And, of course, thanks everybody for listening. Check out Bigfoot South Dakota on Facebook, Bigfoot South Dakota on YouTube. Christian Barrera is our guest. We'll have him on again soon. And that's it, everybody. We'll talk to you again after a while.